Hello, and welcome to another session from the MENA Digital Days. Let me introduce myself. I'm Youssef Dhieb. I am a Google developer expert in machine learning, and I work as a research engineer and team lead at InstaDeep. And today we are going to start a new series of videos called Getting Started with AI on Google Cloud Platform. So if you are new to AI and new to the cloud and would like to learn how to build AI applications and machine learning systems and deploy them on the cloud, then this series is for you. Yeah, so this here also is a preparation for the machine learning for the professional machine learning engineer certification on Google Cloud. Sorry. Yeah. So as I said, this series is preparation for the professional machine learning engineer certificate on Google Cloud. So we go through different contents from the skills boost provided by Google Cloud. And in order to pass this certification, you will need some skills and you need to master some subjects. So the first skills and the first things you need to master are the Google Cloud products, such as the compute engine, where you create your virtual machines, the Kubernetes engines, where you deploy your applications in a totally fully managed Kubernetes engine, and cloud functions, where you can also deploy serverless apps and functions. A cloud run, where you can run your containerized apps. BigQuery, where you can handle and work with your big data. And PubSub, which is also a streaming service for the data that works with the publisher and subscriber system. And you need also to master the data flow product, which is like a processing for your data and for streaming and processing the data online. Then the most important product will be Vertex AI, where you can create notebooks and run some trainings and pipelines and AI pipelines. Then you have the APIs, where you can use AI, and at the same time you can you don't need to know or have any knowledge of the AI. For example, the natural language API, where you can use models already trained on a few subjects, for example, and you want to implement them in your website. There is a vision API. For example, you want your app to detect, for example, people in images, and you don't know how to build AI models or anything from that. So you can use, for example, the vision API, where you just send it the photo, for example, and it will give you back the location of the person in the image. We have also the speech API, where you can use the speech. And we have the Dialogflow API, where you can build conversational AI. And besides the Google product, in order to pass the exam and get the certification, you need actually to master also machine learning and machine learning subjects, such as, for example, the machine learning fundamentals. So what are neural networks? What are the convolutional neural networks, the recurrent neural networks, etc.? What is the loss function? You need to also to master the statistics for machine learning, how to compute the accuracy, the precision, the recall, etc. You need also to learn how to troubleshoot machine learning systems. For example, if you have some overfitting or underfitting, etc. So some of this question will appear actually in the exam, and you need to master actually how to troubleshoot at least simple machine learning systems. You need also to learn how to use TensorFlow to build machine learning models, and you need to have like some knowledge on the machine learning operations or ML ops, on how to deploy your models, etc. Yeah, so that was for the certification. Let me show you, for example, online when we write professional machine learning engineer Google Cloud. So here we will go to this link in the cloud.google.com, and we will find all the information needed regarding the certification. And from the quick links here, you can find the train for the exam, where you can find the training resources. And we will, through this series, we will go through many of these resources together. Then you have also the sample questions. They are sample questions like the one you are going to get in the exam. And also you can like get the advantage from the Google Cloud free tier, and you can use your credit card, so you can get, I think, $300 for free to try Google Cloud with them. And then you have the exam guide and the community. Yeah, so for now we will go to the train for the exam. So here we will find all the labs we need to actually for the path, which is the professional machine learning engineer. So these are the activities you will find. For example, the first lab, a tour of Google Cloud hands-on labs, Google Cloud Big Data and Machine Learning Fundamentals, how Google does machine learning. So you will need to go through all of this content, and we will go actually together through most of them through this series. Yeah, so each one of these also is like a small course where you will have like different modules. For example, the first one we will do today takes only 45 minutes, but after that you have the second one, which is the big data and machine learning fundamentals. So if we click here, yeah, so you will find multiple units. So the course introduction will contain two videos and document. Here you'll find 8 videos in the lab. And then you will find, for example, in this one, 9 videos, a document, a lab, and a quiz. And you need to go through all of them in order to prepare for the exam. Yeah, so today we will go through the first one, which is called a tour of Google Cloud hands-on labs. So here we will actually explore what are the labs and how to work throughout these labs. And then after that, we will have a quick tour of the Google Cloud console and actually how to launch a VM either through the command line interface or through the Google Cloud platform. So yeah, here, so we have the lab in front of us. In order to start the lab, you need to click on this button. You will have 45 minutes to finish the lab. Okay, traffic lights. So once you click on this button, you will have 45 minutes to finish the lab. And you will get here a username, a password, and project ID. And you need to open the Google Cloud Console to access it. Okay, so usually in the labs, when you start, you will find the overview and then the what you will learn section and the prerequisites. Okay, so let's start in here. So we have features and components. Yeah, so we have the credit, the time, the score. The credit usually is from the beginning here. You find it here. There are some labs where you need credits, and these credits you can buy them in bulk, or some labs are free, like this one. You can just do it and start the lab directly. And we have the score, which is on the top right in here. So the more quizzes you finish in this lab, the better the score. You need to achieve 100% to finish the lab. You have the time here, and you have the credentials. Okay, and then you will find actually the questions in here, the quizzes in the lab. So, for example, this builds a temporary environment in Google Cloud, which is the Start Lab button. So the Start Lab button in here will create a temporary environment that you can access. So I will open the Google Cloud Console, but I will open it in a new incognito window. And doing that so that I don't connect with another account. So it will open with this account that they provided, the temporary account. And then I will use the password provided here. So this is the password. and it will connect to the Google Cloud Console. So you click I understand. Then you click I agree to the terms and services, and then agree and continue. Yeah, so here we open the Google Cloud Console. Now we go back to the lab to check what should we do next. In here, for example, when the timer reaches 0, you will lose access to your temporary Google Cloud environment, which is true. The environment will be closed. Some labs have tracking which scores your completion of hands-on lab activities. Yes. And this is where the score adds there. In order to receive completion credit for a lab that has tracking, you must complete the required hands-on lab activities. True. Okay, accessing the lab console. So this is what I just showed. So you just sign into Google Cloud. And yeah, so they also provide you with a project ID, which is the project you are working on. And in Google Cloud Console, actually, you can find multiple projects. So if you are an organization, you can organize your different projects inside the Google Cloud Console. And so that they are totally separated, where each project will has, for example, will have its own network, its own virtual machines, and its own database, for example. And yeah, so this is to view all the projects. Okay, yeah. So this is where you can see all the projects. Here we have only one project. So this one, it was created also temporarily. We can click on all to see all the projects, and you will find the Quick Labs resources. And the Quick Labs resources also, actually, it's a project that is shared with everyone. And you have only view access. You cannot edit anything in the Quick Lab resources. So we will stay on this project. And you can navigate actually through the Google Cloud Console from here, from this button. And sorry. Okay, so you can go here to check your dashboard like that. Otherwise, you will find the menu here for the APIs and services. So everything you can access it from this part. You have the billing here. You have the authorization, the marketplace, compute engine, the cloud storage, BigQuery, etc. And you can even see more products in here. And now you can see all of the products that you can access. Okay, the first thing we will go to is the I am an admin. And here actually you will have the list of the users in your project. And our user is the student in here. And we have actually editor access. And you have actually in Google Cloud Console, you have 3 types of roles. So either you are the editor, either you are the viewer, or you are the owner. Well, if you are a viewer, you can only see things. If you are the editor, you can modify and create, for example, instances, things like that. And if you are owner, then you can add or remove people, and you can set rules for them. And you can, for example, instead of giving like a generic role for everything, you can set like different roles for different products, for example. You can put someone like in BigQuery as an admin, and as a viewer, for example, in the compute engine, for example. And this you can do it only as an owner. Okay, so this is regarding the roles. Yeah, and then we have the APIs and services. Actually, in that menu there, let me go in here, go back. Yeah, so when you open this one in here, you will find actually, for example, the compute engine, etc. And you can go to APIs and services and check all the APIs. So when you go to library, you will find all the APIs for the Google Cloud. And you can search for a specific API, for example, Dialogflow. And actually, most of the APIs are by default in here disabled. So if you want to use one of the APIs, you need to enable it, or you can try click on try the API and check the documentation for that API. Otherwise, you can enable it from here, and then you can access it. Yeah, so now we have the Dialogflow API activated, and you can access it, and you can use it to build conversational AI. Next, the second point will be, for here, for example, we can do the check my progress as we enabled it, And so view APIs, ending your lab. So here, for example, this lab, we ended this lab. And when you finish this lab, you'll find if you answered all the questions or the quizzes, etc., you will find your score here as 100%. And what you need to do is just end lab, and the lab will finish. Then you can just put a rating for the lab and any comments if you have. Now, if we go in here, since we ended the lab, you cannot access anymore. Let's go to dashboard, for example. So it will take like a few seconds to a minute, and then we will lose access to the environment that was created in here. Google Cloud Overview dashboard. It should take like maybe around 1 minute to close. Okay, so now let's close this lab and start a new one. Now, after finishing this lab, we will go to another one. So either we can do the creating a virtual machine, the compute engine, or getting started with the Cloud Shell and Google Cloud. And I think this one is interesting, so let's do this second lab. So in this lab, what we are trying to do is learn how to use the Cloud Shell in the Google Cloud Console. And use in it the gcloud CLI. And so when you start, let me start the lab. Okay, so I use an incognito window. Okay, now we need to launch the Google console, and then we need to activate the Cloud Shell. So we open it in incognito window. We use the password provided. So to activate the Cloud Shell, you need to go to the top right in here and click on it, activate the Cloud Shell. So this Cloud Shell will actually create an environment which is private to you as a user. It's a Debian, I think, environment, and from which you can interact with all the services of Google Cloud, and you can interact with them actually using the gcloud CLI. And got it. And why should we do that? I mean, or using the gcloud, because sometimes you need to for example, automate few things using scripts. And this way, it will be very helpful to use the G-Cloud. Let's show an example, for example, here. Okay, you can list the active account name with this command, for example, G-Cloud auth list. Authorize. Yeah, so here it shows the account name. We can also, for example, show the project we are on now. For that, we can type gcloud config list project. And it will show the project that we are working on, which is this project in here. Yeah, that project. And actually, you can find the full documentation for the G-Cloud in this link if you want later. Yeah, so the first task we will be doing today is to configure our environment. And the first thing is to understand the regions and zones. Actually, when you have we have different regions actually, and for each region we have different zones. For example, in US Central 1, we have four zones: US Central 1A, US Central 1B, C, and F. And actually, if you have virtual machines and you want to attach a persistent disk to that virtual machine, or so this disk and this machine should be on the same network and should be on the same, actually, on the same region and the same zone. And if you want to assign for it, for example, a static IP address, this IP address also should be in the same zone, actually. So let's set a region for our project as a default region. So we can use this command, gcloud config set and compute region US. Okay, gcloud config, and then set. Then we use the compute region. And we will use US East 1, for example. Yeah, so here we updated it. And to get the value, we can use gcloud, I think get value or config get. There's the get value, and yeah, config get value compute region. Yeah, and it will show us the region that we just set in here. And why is this helpful? Because after that, we can include actually these in our scripts so that we can automate everything with it. And now let's set the zone. We can, you do the same thing, gcloud config set compute zone this time, and we use the C zone. Compute zone. Then US East 1 C. Yeah, updated property, good. And then to show it, the same thing, gcloud config, get value, and then the compute zone. For this, I will just copy it and paste it in here. Showing the right zone. Yeah, and now how to find actually the project information. Okay, in the Cloud Shell, so we can use the gcloud config get value and then project. Let's use it. So it will give us the name of the projects we are working on. And then if you want to get the details about the project, we can use this command gcloud compute project info describe, and then we add dash dash project, and here you can use the value from the previous command. Okay, let me copy that. No need to write it. And here it will give you all the necessary info regarding your project and all the settings of your project. Yeah, let me go back in here. Yeah, so you can see here, for example, the Google Compute default zone, it was set to US East 1. The Google Compute default region, it was set to US 1. And so if you don't set them, usually they are set to none. And now, since they are set as default in here, when you will create a new VM and a new disk, they will be automatically created in this region and in this zone. Okay, now we can set, for example, let's set an environment variable. For example, the project ID, we can set an environment variable project ID. And with that, we can set it using this command, the gcloud config get value project. Let's set it in here. And we'll create an environment variable for the zone. Okay, now if we want to echo that, just to make sure that we have the right values for these environment variables. Yeah, it's project ID, we have the project ID and then the zone. It's correct. Okay, now since we have these values, we can create a virtual machine actually from the command line instead of going through the user interface. So in order to create your virtual machine, you need to run the following command: gcloud compute instances, create GCE lab2, machine type E2 medium, and then zone. We use the environment variable here. Okay, let's go through these one by one. So the gcloud, we said it's the CLI you are using, and the compute is actually the compute product. It's in here, the compute engine. And the compute engine here will allow us actually to create virtual machines, use TPUs, etc. But now we say we are going to do it by in the command line interface. So we went to compute, and then we went to instances, then to create a new VM or instance. GCE lab2 is actually the name of the virtual machine. Then here, machine type, and we choose the type, E2 medium, and then the zone in which it will be created, and we put in here the zone that we defined in this command. Okay, so let's run this command in here. So this. So now it's creating the virtual machine. Yeah, it was created. The name of the virtual machine is GCE Lab2. This is the zone, the type of the machine, and then the internal IP address and the external IP address in case you want to SSH through the machine. Okay, yeah, so here they explain what I just said. Check my progress. Yeah. Okay, and now if you want to have like more help on the create command, you can use the dash dash help actually here. Let's use it to see what you can use, for example, to create virtual machines. Yeah. So here the instance names, the accelerator, the boot disk device name, can IP forward the disk, etc. So you can use this. You can go through the help and line by line like that while pressing enter or pressing space. You can go through a chunk of it. Okay, so quit. So when you need any help, I mean, with any of these modules in here, in each at each level, you just write -- help, and you will get the help on that command. For example, even in the G-Cloud in here, let's try this one. Yeah, so here it gives you all the modules and the APIs that you can use. The G-Cloud, what you can use after it. For example, we were using the compute. You can use the composer, you can use the Cloud Shell, you can use data stream or any of the other components or APIs of Google Cloud. Okay, and if you want to access more verbose by appending the help flag, you can use that. And you can run it for the config, for example, as I said, so you can run it at any level. Actually, you can put the G-Cloud help or G-Cloud dash help to get the help for the config part. And you can actually also use the help directly, the help component. So you just need to write the G-Cloud help and then config, and it will give you the help for the config. But actually, it's the same result in here. Okay, if we want to see the list of the configuration in our environment, then we can use G-Cloud config list. Okay, and here we have the config, where we have the region, the zone, etc. And actually, to see all the properties, we can add the -- all. And we will have a more detailed list, or all the list actually, with all the variables in here, or the settings actually. Yeah. So these are actually all the components of your project. For example, all of these are unset. I don't know if the compute also is unset. Okay. And you can also list all the components using G-Cloud components list. Let's paste it in here. Yeah, and you will have a list of all the components that are installed actually in here. Okay, now the second task will be filtering the command line output. Yeah, for example, let's try the G-Cloud compute instances list to output all the instances we have, or the instances we have created. So we create only one, which is GCE Lab 2. And now you can filter actually with the name of the instances. For example, if you had, let's say, different instances, you can filter by name or by zone or by anything. But here, basically, we'll get the same result, actually the same instance. We have only one at the end. Yeah. We can list the firewall rules in the project. So we can use G-Cloud compute firewall rules and list. Let's do that. Yeah, so these are all the firewall rules. Yeah, so the allow SSH, allow RDP, etc. Yeah, and now we can filter actually through the network, for example, showing only network equal default. So it's the same actually command, but you just add -- filter and then you choose to filter with which component, which element to filter with. Yeah, here it's showing only the ones with the default network equal default. For example, let's filter on these with network equals default and allow equals ICMP. Yeah, so now it's showing only these two. Okay, yeah, next task is to connect to our VM instance. So you can connect with SSH actually through using SSH command or using this command, using the gcloud compute then SSH. Then you write the name of your virtual machine and then you put the zone. Let's connect to the machine, virtual machine we created. We write Y for yes, and it will ask for a passphrase. We'll keep it empty. Okay. And now it's connecting. Yeah, so now you can see that we have student 00, etc. at GCE Lab 2. So now we are connected to the machine. You can even like if you want to write ls CPU, it will show different configuration, etc. Yeah. Yeah, so next step, we can maybe install nginx, sudo apt install -y nginx to try to connect to it. So why we are doing that, we will install nginx, but we will after that, because we cannot communicate with nginx because it's inside the machine, we have the firewall rules where it's blocking everything now. And we want actually to communicate with it. So we'll have to change some of the firewall rules. So yeah, let's write this command. Sudo apt install y nginx install in the machine. Yeah, now we exit the virtual machine. We go back to the shell console in here, the cloud shell. Yeah, and then we update the firewall rules. So if we don't update them and try to communicate with nginx using this command, for example, we'll not be able to get anything. So we don't get anything. We are not able to connect with that server. Yeah, so let's go in here and change the firewall rules. And actually, so now we are doing that in the Google Cloud Console, but we can also do it in the user interface, and I will show that in a bit. Yeah, so let's first list our firewall rules. We use gcloud compute firewall rules and list to list the firewall rules for the compute component for our virtual machines. Okay, and then we will need to change one of the rules or add tags actually. Yeah, so we'll add the HTTP server and HTTPS server tags using this command. So now that the tags are set, now we update the firewall rule to allow. And for that, we use gcloud compute firewall rules create. We create the firewall rules, default, allow HTTP, direction ingress, priority 1000, etc. Yeah, and for all the IP addresses. Okay. We allow access through port 80. And here we can list all the firewall rules we have, and we can filter with allow equals 80 or allow the port 80. Yeah, and it shows this rule actually, allow HTTP. Now that we change this rule, we can go in here and test back this command. Now you see that the response from the Nginx, the default response from the Nginx server. Good. Now the last task will be viewing the system logs. To view the system logs, you can go to gcloud logging logs and then list to get the list of all the logs. Okay. Now we want to filter actually on these logs and show only the ones related to the compute. Yeah, so it's showing only one in here. And then we read the logs related to the GCE instance. Yeah, these are all the logs on how we define the tags, added the tags, and modified the firewall rules. So you will find all of what we did in here, in these logs actually. Yeah, you can see here compute.instances that set tags. Yeah, so you can find all the logs in there. And you can also filter and read the logs for a specific virtual machine, for example. You add labels that instance name equals GCE lab 2. Let's try that. Yeah, it doesn't show anything. Okay. Yeah, and here now testing your understanding. Okay, let's do this question. 3 basic ways to interact with Google Cloud Services and resources. So we have the command line interface. We have the Cloud Console. And I think we have the client libraries. Yeah, correct. Yeah, now we finished it. We got a score of 100 on the lab. We can end the lab here, but before ending the lab, let me go back through the console and try to do all of what we did through the user interface. So if we want to create a virtual machine, we need to go to the compute engine and go to VM instances. Yeah, so here you can find all your VMs, the VMs you created. Let me close this. Yeah, so here we have the GCE Lab 2. You have its internal IP address and external IP address. If you want to connect to this virtual machine, you just click on SSH here, and it will connect. Let's try it. Yep. Yeah, so here we are inside the machine. You can do whatever you want in there. Good. If you want to stop the machine, pause it or delete it or do anything you want, you can do it in, you can do it in here. You can stop it, you can reset it, delete it, view network details, etc. If you want to edit the machine, you can click in here to see the info first of the machine. Yeah, so you can find the name, the zone, for example, all of the details, the machine type, the CPU, the architecture. Okay, and the firewall rules. Yeah, and if you want to do any modifications, you can just go to edit and modify the settings. So in here you can modify whatever you want in the settings. And here are the tags actually for the HTTP server and HTTPS. You can remove them actually from here, for example. And you can save. You can choose to delete the disk if you delete the machine, or keep the disk, for example. Yeah, this is how you edit the machine. Still saving. Now, if we want to create a virtual machine from the user interface, you can, okay, let me go back in here. Yeah. you go to create instance, and then you give it a name. Let me say GCE Lab 2, Lab 3 actually. You choose the region. So we chose US East 1, US East 1C. And you choose what kind of processors you want, or what kind of CPU, of GPU, for example. Yeah, you can here choose which type. It's the E2 series, N2, N2D, etc. Here you can choose what type of CPUs you want. Like you want ARM CPUs, AMD CPUs, or Intel Lake CPUs. You choose the type of virtual machine, where you can choose like a number of CPUs in the memory. So here 2 vCPUs and 4 gigabytes of memory. You can choose ones with higher memory than that, 16 gigabytes, 32, 64, 128. Or you can choose like with a high number of CPU but low memory. For example, 32 CPUs but only 32 gigabytes of memory. And then you can actually where is the GPU? Yeah, you can't add in here GPU. If you want a machine for machine learning, for example, you want to use the GPU, you can click on GPU in here. You choose what type of GPU you want, NVIDIA T4, for example, only one GPU, and you choose the CPU and the memory in here. Let's say you want like a 16 CPU and 60 gigabytes of memory. And the good thing that was added actually to Google Cloud is the estimation here, how much it would cost. It would cost you to run this machine. Yeah. Other configuration. Yeah. So here, other configuration would be the boot disk, for example. The image that you are going to use, you can change it here. You can choose different images. We can choose, for example, an Ubuntu image, and choose, let's say, Ubuntu 22. Yeah, this one you cannot choose because it's an ARM. Actually, yeah, it's showing red because it's for ARM CPUs. Let's choose one, yeah, for the x86. Okay, and then the size in gigabytes, yeah, keep it 10. Yeah, and here you can choose the for the firewall if you want to allow HTTP or HTTPS traffic. And then you just create it. Okay. Yeah, now we have this machine. Now, if you want to stop your machine, you can go here, just stop this one, the first one we created. And the second one, there is problem here because I think since we are in a quick lab, we cannot use, I think, the GPU ones. If we were to create like a simple machine like this one, it would succeed, probably. Yeah, it says it's unavailable. Okay, let's delete it. Yeah. Yeah, so that was a quick tour of the Google Cloud Console and the Google Cloud user interface and the compute engine. Actually, let me close this, and now you can just end your lab, and it will be marked as a finished lab. Then you put the rating as usual in the comments. Yeah, let me check if we have any questions. In the comments. Yeah, actually there are no questions. Good. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this session. Yeah, next time we start to dive more into the machine learning part and machine learning components of the Google Cloud console. Yeah. Have a good night.